Hello, my ecom learners and friends, as well as to those who are new to my educational channel. This is Teacher Claire, and as promised, I am giving you the visual lesson on showing a concrete example for the Chapter 2 contents. However, before we proceed to the example contents, under these few considerations, here is the first one. Your research questions serve as your guide in looking for the perfect materials you need. Look at this example. From that question, you may formulate keywords to look for materials such as distance learning, online learning, and students' perception on ODL or online distance learning. And here is the next one. Writing a literature review involves finding relevant publications such as books, journal articles, and prior researches. For studies, you may easily identify whether it suits your own research by reading its abstracts. The next important element is this one. I am certain that you will be able to read everything related to your research topic in order to collect the data you needed. As such, you'll have to evaluate which sources are most relevant to your questions. To ensure you have the most suited literature and studies as sources, ask yourself the following questions whenever you read a publication. Ensure that you have these questions answered to check on the credibility and reliability of your sources. You can find out how many times an article has been cited on Google Scholar. A high citation count means the article has been influential in the field and should certainly be included in your literature review. Another element to consider is this one. Check on whether the literature and study you are reading have the same populations that were sampled and sampling methods employed. Say for instance, your research focused on students' perceptions, so the sample population must be students. If the study being reviewed targeted teachers' perceptions, then that means it did not match your research and might lead you to a wrong direction. The next element that you have to be aware of is this one. In organizing your literature reviews, you must analyze the connections among the sources you've read. Based on your reading and notes, you can look for the following. Do certain approaches become more or less popular over time? Be sure that you are taking the most updated one. What questions or concepts persist and always reappear across the literature? Where do sources usually disagree? You read more on that and get essential data you may use to support your research claim. What is missing from the literature and studies? Are there weaknesses that need to be addressed? Now let's have an example, Chapter 2 with contents. Take note though that this example have all the parts but are not fully completed. It was made only as a guide sample for you to see how Chapter 2 must be constructed. For the first page, we have the introduction. In this part, you must say that you'll give an overview and analysis of the previous researches relevant to the study specifying its title, like in that example sentence. The next is at least give an idea that you will answer the most important question or the research problem like that example, which is about the question, how do students perceive the utilization of online distance learning? Moreover, tell also something about the research design and data collection process like in that sentence example. As stated, the researcher used qualitative method, so data are analyzed according to themes and trends. Lastly, inform the readers of the underlying theory the research employed in explaining the existence of the research problem. In this example, the theory included is the cognitive evaluation theory. The next slides will show you the literature and studies connected to the present study read and reviewed by the researcher. They are classified into two, the local and the foreign. In this page, the researcher only presented a brief introduction to lead readers on the in-depth discussion and analysis of the sources. As you can see, the page reminded us to never forget to cite our sources. These are examples of in-text citations. Furthermore, as shown, the source is a local literature since the data came from a local newspaper, specifically Manila Bulletin. Reading on the contents, you could see that the data taken from the source focus on the students' frustrations and views, as well as reasons for asking academic freeze. the information is certainly relevant to the present study being conducted. In this part of the local literature, the researcher has introduced the underlying theory in the present research and explained its connection to the material's information. The last sentence is a critical analysis of the data taken from the material relevant to the theory presented. The next page gives us foreign authored literature or material as signaled by the citation. So again, these are examples of in-text citations. In this page, the researcher enumerated the responses of the students to the teacher's question as stated in the educational blog. Those answers are the perceptions of students on online learning which the researcher targets to know. In this page, the researcher gave a critical review relevant to the concept of the present research undertaken. The next we have is the local studies. As you can see again, the page presented as the local study source of the research data. In this part of the review, the role of the parents in the online learning process was highlighted. The page gave us the source citation for the foreign studies. The data was taken from a research survey. This statement showed that from the responses of the students' samples, it appeared that teachers' connection with the students in the online class created positive impact to the learners as reviewed by the researcher. In another foreign studies source, the researcher found out that online applications and software used in the online class positively get students' attention. However, they still mostly consider online class as stressful. This section served as the concluding part where the researcher made connections among the literature and studies reviewed to state initial findings and possibly set recommendations. The highlighted statements are what the researcher found out from the responses of the students about their experiences in the online learning. These two are what needed to be resolved in order to assist the learners properly in the coming school year. And that is just a simple example of the content of a chapter 2. And this is Teacher Claire once again from Ecom channel. I hope you gained learning from this video lesson, and I would certainly love to have you once again in my next video lesson. Thank you for watching. God bless you all, and always wear a happy heart.